Welcome back to TLC New Updates, the channel that doesn't just scratch the surface. We dig deeper, find the truth, and tell you what's really happening behind the cameras and closed doors of the Brown family. And now? Oh, you better hold on. Because what we're about to reveal might totally revolutionize the way you perceive the downfall of one of reality television's most popular families. We've witnessed the breakdowns, the brawls, and the splits. But what if I said that the actual bombshell has yet to explode? Picture this: a majestic, million-dollar mansion standing in the Flagstaff Hills. It's been dubbed a castle, a fairy tale home for the self-proclaimed king and queen. Now imagine that same scene, but with a bright red for sale sign stuck right in front. Only this is not a conventional sale. Because emblazoned across that sign, in stark, unyielding letters, are two words that ripple through the Sister Wives universe: court ordered. So how in the world did self-styled Queen Robyn Brown and her husband Kody end up in a situation as dire as eviction? The explanation isn't in TLC's meticulously edited shows or their cheerful social media captions. The reality is down to one overlooked piece of paper, one document that's now retelling the tale of their entire family. Thanks for watching, because this could be our most shocking report so far. If you enjoy getting to the real story, not the sanitized one, go ahead and give that like button a click, and don't forget to subscribe with the bell enabled, because once we break it all down, you won't want to miss a single twist or shred in the fallout that's going to follow. Now, to grasp this courtroom battle rocking the Brown clan to its foundation, we must turn back, not to the recriminations, not to the tears, but to the time when Kody Pass first became a dream, and the confidential agreement that financed it. Let's go back to 2018. The Browns were exiting Las Vegas, on what Kody described as a fresh start. They sold their 4 houses in the cul-de-sac and combined their funds into what Kody lovingly referred to as the family pot. That pot was meant to pay for their future, their fantasy of creating forever homes on a stunning piece of Arizona land called Coyote Pass. But here's the thing: the numbers never quite added up. The property itself was pricey, and the family was hemorrhaging money paying rent on several houses. Meanwhile, Kody was busy making blueprints for one humongous mansion that no one but him appeared to desire. Christine longed for her porch. Mary coveted her wet bar. Robyn simply wanted to be near Kody. And Janelle? She was the pragmatist. Janelle was always the numbers person, the one who brought reality to the family finances. But this time, she saw a storm on the horizon. She'd invested everything she'd ever made, decades of work and deliberate saving, in that supposed family fund. Sources indicate her contribution alone was more than $400,000. This wasn't pretend money. This was her future, her retirement, her nest egg, her children's security. And with each viewing of the spending become greater and greater, Janelle began to fear that her whole lifetime's worth of savings were going to disappear into the black hole of Kody and Robyn's wish list. That is where the television version of the story and the actual story begin to diverge. On television, we saw Janelle as the good team player, maybe cautious, perhaps, but supportive. Off camera, it was another matter. She observed what was going on, and she determined she wasn't going to bet her future on Kody's latest harebrained scheme. So she did something nobody, including Kody, saw coming. She hired herself a lawyer. In secret, Janelle called in a financial lawyer and told him everything: the family joint account, the Coyote Pass land purchase, and her enormous personal financial stake. Her request was straightforward: save me. I can't lose everything. What came out of that meeting would be the ticking time bomb at the center of the Brown family, a piece of paper known as the Coyote Pass Investment and Promissory Note Agreement. It was airtight, clean, and clear. It declared that Janelle's $400,000 was not a gift. It was not even a joint family contribution. It was a loan, not just any loan. It had interest, a 5-year repayment schedule, and most crucially, personal guarantees on both Kody's and Robyn's part. That meant if Debsark LLC, their family business, wasn't able to pay her back, Kody and Robyn themselves would be legally liable for every last cent, interest, and all. Their own personal assets would be on the line. Imagine the day that document was signed. It didn't occur in a high-end lawyer's office. No, from one source close to the family, it all went down at Robyn's grand rental home, the same house that was bleeding the family dry. Kody, always the performer, likely viewed the document as an annoyance. Just another bit of red tape between him and his ideal property. He likely read through it hastily, noticed terms such as loan and agreement, and dismissed it as Janelle being too cautious. He likely signed it with a flourish, thinking it meant nothing. Robyn, however, is said to have been offended. To her, it was cold. A betrayal of the family trust. Family she believed was about sharing everything in love and loyalty, not contracts. But with the purchase of the land hanging in the balance, she sighed, signed, and let it go. They had no idea what they were doing. They believed they were signing a family ritual. Janelle was aware she was signing an insurance policy, her escape plan. And with those autographs, Kody and Robyn sealed their doom unwittingly. Janelle folded hers away, and that legal time bomb began quietly ticking. Fast forward a couple of years. We all saw the drama. The frenzy to move to Flagstaff. The ongoing financial stress. Janelle in an RV, while Kody and Robyn settled into their $1 million estate. Each and every payment they made on that house, it was one less that went towards paying off that Coyote Pass debt. Money that ought to have been used to develop the land, water, power, roads, was being diverted into Robyn's palace and her collection of extravagances. Throughout it all, Janelle remained quiet. She observed. She tolerated the condescension, the emotional remoteness, the gaslighting. She even endured the pandemic in isolation from her children, while Kody and Robyn holed themselves up in their own little bubble. But as the world believed Janelle was helpless, she had one secret advantage, that paper, waiting in hiding. And one day its moment would arrive. That signed paper, the one Janelle had secretly stashed away years before, had now become her life support. Her policy against the very abandonment she was currently experiencing. And finally the crunch arrived. Following all those years of being treated as less than a wife, less than a partner, Janelle finally had her say. She left, she chose her children. She chose peace. And by doing so, she activated the very legal process that would return to torment Kody and Robyn in ways they never envisioned. For when Janelle departed, the family as legally constituted, the one that had so signed, no longer existed. The 5-year loan deadline was approaching. Coyote Pass land remained sitting untouched, barren and unsold. That is to say, all conditions for repayment were now fulfilled. And Janelle wasn't just walking off into the sunset with her dignity in tow. She had her attorney's number on speed dial. The initial gambit was straightforward but potent. A formal request for payment, sent by certified mail directly to Kody and Robyn's doorstep. The letter spelled it all out. The initial $400,000, plus 5 years of compounded interest. The figure now stood at more than $500,000. And the Browns' reaction? Exactly what you'd expect. Sources describe chaos inside that Flagstaff mansion. Kody reportedly went ballistic, ranting about betrayal, about how Janelle had turned on the family. In his mind, that money had been part of the communal fund, just another contribution to the family's shared dream. Of course, he conveniently ignored the fact that he and Robyn were the only ones truly living that dream. Robyn, as usual, collapsed into tears. She wept that Janelle was trying to destroy the family, that it was never about money, but about faith and loyalty. She positioned herself as the victim, the faithful wife suddenly in danger of ruin at the hands of a vengeful ex-sister wife. What both of them disregarded, or maybe even chose not to accept, was that this was not a question of emotion or religion. It was law, and the law favored Janelle. When the demand letter was ignored, Janelle pursued the next course of action. She sued. It was initially subdued. A run-of-the-mill civil filing in Arizona court. Janelle Brown vs. Debsark LLC. Kody Brown and Robyn Sullivan Brown. The grievance? Plain and devastating. Breach of contract. Failure to pay back a loan. Banded still in denial. Kody and Robyn counterattacked. They retained a lawyer who made the argument that their unique polygamous lifestyle meant ordinary financial contracts didn't apply. They asserted it was all part of their family's spiritual arrangement, that Janelle was simply attempting to use the court system as an instrument of revenge. But Janelle didn't appear in court with emotion. She appeared with facts, and one damning piece of proof that signed Kody Pass investment and promissory note agreement, with Kody and Robyn's own signatures. It was followed by several months of relentless but behind-the-scenes legal battles, depositions, filings, and strategy meetings far from the cameras. The courtroom melodrama that was never seen. And then the moment of truth. The hearing on the summary judgment. No jury, no weepy testimony. Just the facts presented to the judge. Kody and Robyn relied on emotion for their defense, discussing family ties, love shared and intentions misunderstood. Janelle's case was streamlined, concise and tight. The gems of the hearing were when portions of Janelle's deposition were read during the hearing. Her testimony stripped away the shiny veneer of the Brown family facade. She talked of years of working, saving and supporting, not only as a wife, but as one of the primary breadwinners in the family. She had raised 6 children, usually with minimal assistance from Kody, and spent her energy and money on what she felt was a common vision. And then there was the line that hushed the courtroom. The quote which would be the battle cry of her whole case. For 3 decades, I invested everything I have into a shared vision. I built this family with my sweat, my hours, and my dollars. When that vision was killed, I was instructed to walk away with nothing, to have all of my contribution erased as though it never existed. I will not be erased, and I will not be stolen. Those words sliced through Kody's hot rhetoric about togetherness and Robyn's sobbing entreaties about love. It put the entire thing in a new perspective. This was not about family emotions. It was about a bad business bargain, and one woman not wanting to be cheated out of her lifetime savings. When the judge made the decision, it came quickly and unambiguously. The contract had been valid. The signatures were authentic. The conditions were explicit. Kody and Robyn had defaulted. The verdict, in Janelle's name, in the full amount, plus interest and attorney fees. Almost $600,000 total. They were ordered to pay forthwith. But of course that's when things really got bad. Because Kody and Robyn didn't exactly have that kind of money sitting around. They had their money invested in 2 things. The still empty land at Kody Pass and their highly mortgaged house. And this, right here, is where that pesky little personal guarantee clause bit them back. Since the LLC account was drained, and there were no other assets, the court invoked the personal guarantee. That meant this wasn't a judgment against the business. It was against Kody and Robyn Brown themselves. The next blow was crushing. The court put a judgment lien on their home. Now a lien is essentially a legal claim against a piece of property. It means they wouldn't be able to sell or refinance their house without paying Janelle first. But Janelle's lawyers didn't rest there. They contended that waiting for some potential future sale wasn't sufficient. The debt needed to be paid up now. So they brought a motion compelling them to sell, and the judge complied. The judge signed an order that was final. Kody and Robyn had to sell their home to pay the judgment. And voila, the Queen's castle was a foreclosure. The last courtroom tableau, insiders said, was as if from a movie. Janelle sat at her attorney's table. Serene, steady, composed. There was no glee, just subdued vindication. She hadn't wanted it to go this way, but she wouldn't let herself be erased. In the other room, Robyn wept, forehead on hands, knowing that her haven, the home she'd considered her safe space, was vanishing.
Oh.
And Kody, he simply sat quiet, fuming, eyes glued to the floor.
Oh.
The self-appointed patriarch, outmaneuvered. The woman he'd earlier dismissed as too practical, too reserved, had just stolen the crown jewel right out of his hands. All due to one astute, straightforward, overlooked document. Let's be clear on what comes next. This is not a routine sale. This is a sale by order of the court. The court will provide them a reasonable time to put the property on the market at a reasonable price with a licensed broker. If they delay or refuse, a receiver will be appointed to step in and control the process. An even more embarrassing process that usually brings less sale price. Each and every dollar that comes in once the mortgage is settled will go directly to Janelle until she's fully paid off that $600,000 judgment. Not until then. And not unless there's money left over. Will Kody and Robyn get a penny? And given the condition of the housing market and what they have outstanding on the mortgage, it's more than likely they'll take home nothing. From $1 million estate to possibly leasing an apartment, all because they underestimated the quiet strength and iron will of Janelle Brown. This is not merely another installment in the sister wives drama. It's a reckoning, fiscal, emotional, and deeply symbolic. The tides of power have changed, and they're not changing back. For years, Brown fans have debated whether the Browns ever actually split their money equally. Fans saw Janelle make one sacrifice after another, living in a tiny trailer on land she contributed to purchasing, while her ex-sister wife lived in a lavish house that Janelle's money contributed to. Now this court decision isn't all about pennies and dollars. It's about affirmation. It's the court system affirming what millions of people already knew all along. Janelle was that family's breadwinner, and she was quietly being sidestepped. So what is this foreclosure? Let's begin with the land. Coyote Pass. That's essentially the family's only other large asset. But that's a disaster too. It's owned jointly by a number of family members, including Christine, who has already legally walked away, and Mary, who is still financially attached but emotionally gone. The property itself, unimproved, burdened with debts and taxes, and almost impossible to sell in a hurry. Now that Janelle's judgment probably covers Kody and Robyn's portion, they can't do anything with it unless they pay her what they owe. In a nutshell, Janelle's lawsuit put the family's economic life on ice. Kody's vision of constructing an enormous polygamous heaven out there in the desert. It's extinct. Foreclosed literally and figuratively. That property is no longer a symbol of hope. It's a symbol of failure. Dry, debt-laden land burdened with shattered vows. And then there's the emotional aftermath. The divide between Janelle and the group of Kody, Robyn, and Mary was already broad. This lawsuit makes it a chasm. There's really no turning back. Kody has always narrated his own tale as though he's the victim, the hapless husband whose wives left him and destroyed the family. But how is he going to spin this one? He can't label Janelle irrational or flighty when she just beat him fair and square, employing a rock-solid legal strategy. Yes, he'll most likely vent on TV, claiming Janelle was cold or calculating. But the facts remain. He signed the contract. He defaulted on the loan. He lost his home. Those are difficult realities, and there is no manipulation or editing that can remove them. Now picture what this does to Robyn. Her entire self has been built on being Kody's favorite wife, residing in the lovely house he purchased for her. A trophy of their so-called perfect love story. To lose that home, and to lose it to Janelle, is gut-wrenching on a personal basis. That house was her castle, her evidence that she won. Its removal destroys the fairy tale. Sure, she'll cry. She'll discuss the loss, the disruption to her children, the inhumanity of it all. But this time, fans won't pity her as a victim. Most will view those tears for what they are. The belated cost of living above her station for so long, financed in part by Janelle's nest egg. And then there's Mary. Poor Mary. She's still legally entangled at Coyote Pass. But does she have any documentation safeguarding her own investments? Doubt it. Mary's always acted based on loyalty, anticipating that if she remained loyal, Kody would finally pay attention to her once more. Janelle, on the other hand, took a very different route. She protected herself legally. And now we're seeing the results. Janelle walks away secure and vindicated. Mary's left holding onto a chunk of worthless land, still emotionally tied to a man who's openly said he's not interested in her. This might finally be the wake-up call Mary needs, to find her own lawyer and start untangling herself from this financial disaster. Now let's examine closely how intelligent Janelle's action actually was. By structuring her contribution as a loan to the family business, secured by a personal guarantee, she did a masterstroke. She transformed herself from merely another wife in a spiritual family into a secured creditor in a legal transaction. That's enormous. Because in court, this wasn't some messy family squabble. It was a business transaction gone bad. And business law doesn't care about personal relationships. Either there was a contract or there wasn't. Either you paid or you didn't. By taking emotion out of it, Janelle took away Kody's control, Period. No more manipulation. No more guilt trips. Just the cold hard realities of the law. And the personal guarantee. That was genius. Janelle understood that Dabsark LLC, the company name Kody and Robyn went under, likely didn't have much cash in it. So she ensured that they personally guaranteed the loan. That way, when they defaulted, she could foreclose their home. That is, Janelle anchored her leverage years ago. She bet that Kody's dream projects would implode, and that he'd squander the family's cash. She wagered on her own resolve, and Kody's fiscal recklessness. And she won. Big. Now let's get to what this implies about the show itself. Sister Wives has always been heavily edited for narrative control. Kody and Robyn have controlled that narrative for the past few years, presenting themselves as the ones trying to keep the family together, while everyone else fell apart. This court decision totally dismantles that narrative. It lays bare the truth that as they were discussing family unity, they were living in comfort on the same money that originated from the wives whom they abandoned. They weren't emotionally negligent. They were debtors. And now they're officially declared defaulters. That stigma will haunt them no matter where they are. Consider how this is going to appear on television next season. Kody standing on Coyote Pass, discussing his aspirations for the family's future, while a for sale sign in front of his house. Because Janelle won the judgment. That's not ironic. That's poetic justice. It takes away his veneer as a tough patriarch and reveals what he truly is. A man who was outmaneuvered legally and financially by the woman he once relegated to the status of just a buddy. And the timing of it all makes it all the more unbelievable. Janelle declared her breakup with Kody in late 2022. Legal proceedings such as this don't occur overnight. They take months or even years. That means she probably initiated this case discreetly in early 2023, while the most recent season was still in production. As we were all sitting there watching her fight with Kody on TV, she was already setting herself up for her courtroom win in real life. Her composure during those scenes rings differently now. Don't you think? She wasn't spaced out. She was sure of herself. She already knew she had the law working in her favor. She was playing chess while the rest of us were playing checkers. And there's a larger lesson here as well: never combine money and family without explicit legal arrangements. The Browns lived on trust and faith for years, with Kody self-appointed banker and decision-maker. Well, that's officially over. This economic system the Browns operated on functioned, at least to some extent, so long as everyone still believed in the dream. But when the dream collapsed, those who had not insulated themselves legally found themselves wide open. Janelle's wisdom to make her investment concrete and supported by a binding contract is an empowering lesson to life. She demonstrated something that many women in multifaceted families or relationships must hear. You can be loving, faithful, and supportive, and still smart enough to take care of yourself. She refused to let anyone talk her into believing that being cautious with her money was being untrustworthy or cold. Ultimately, that intelligence protected her. This is the moment that flips everything we think about Janelle on its head. For years she was painted as the level-headed one, cerebral, rational, perhaps a bit too subdued. But now, we glimpse her for what she truly is: a formidable, calculated woman who'd finally had an epiphany and decided she'd had enough. After decades of shouldering the consequences of other people's poor decisions, she made one bold choice that altered the entire family's narrative. She didn't merely demand her due. She legally dismantled the very premise of Kody and Robyn's so-called family empire. The end result is poetic. The mansion Robyn once referred to as her dream house, the emblem of privilege that incited envy and bills, is now being auctioned off to pay the woman who helped finance it in the first place. It's poetic justice. Kody and Robyn wanted a castle to demonstrate their reign on the family. Now that same castle is being foreclosed upon to finance their indiscretion. And the sweetest part? Janelle didn't have to yell, shout, or even physically fight. She let the law speak for her. Dixel when the law speak for her. Her triumph wasn't boisterous and dramatic, it was hushed, exact, and conclusive. The kind of triumph that accompanies the sound of a judge's gavel, the groan of a for sale sign going into the front yard, and a solitary bank transfer labeled "paid in full." That is where it stands today. The foreclosure is now in progress. Kody and Robyn's time is running out. The powerful Brown, king and queen are being pushed off of their throne. Janelle, the down-to-earth, humble one, the woman they all thought little of, has outmaneuvered them all. She bided her time with patience, forethought, and paperwork rather than theatrics. She wasn't driven by a desire for revenge. It was self-respect, and in defending herself, she's rewritten the entire last act of the Brown family drama entirely. So, what's next? Will Kody and Robyn be able to stall the sale? Will they attempt to file for bankruptcy? And how will TLC spin this in the next season of Sister Wives? One thing is certain, the tables have turned once and for all. Janelle didn't simply win back her money. She took back her independence, her dignity, and her narrative. And that can't be measured by any dollar figure. Now it's your turn, Sister Wives fans. You've had a look at the documents, the reports, and the timeline. What do you think? Was Janelle's decision a masterful move of financial self-preservation, a master checkmate years in the making? Or was it a cold, calculated move for revenge, justice, or retribution? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't miss sharing this video with all of your Sister Wives friends. Anyone needs to know about how Janelle Brown flipped the script and insisted on the sale of Kody and Robyn's mansion. But before we go, let's step inside that mansion. Because to really understand the impact of this court ruling, you have to picture what's happening inside those walls right now. In our sources, the aftermath has been sheer chaos, a whirlwind of anger, denial, and outrage. Kody, in particular, has been spinning out of control. The production insiders told of him walking back and forth across the mansion's main room, his words ringing out across the walls as he inveighed against betrayal and unfairness. He didn't view this as a legal defeat. He viewed it as a personal attack, a violation of faith itself. One source remembered him yelling, "This isn't about money, this is an assault on my family. The courts don't comprehend our covenant. This is religious." That sentence tells it all about Kody's attitude. He'd always thought that he operated on higher laws, a divine code that was superior to regular law. Janelle hadn't just gone to court against him in his head. She'd broken a holy order. To him, she wasn't some creditor collecting debt. She was some heretic assailing the center of his spiritual power. That hurt pride soon gave way to fixation. Our sources indicate Kody phoned lawyers day and night, trying to find a loophole, an appeal, something to strike back. He wanted to sue Janelle back, for emotional distress, defamation, for ruining the family. But his own lawyers had to tell him, there's no escaping this. He signed for the loan. He didn't repay it. The judge's ruling is final. Nothing, no amount of yelling and scapegoating, could alter that. And for the first time, Kody's talent for dominating people's emotions, the same one that kept his family in check, struck an unshakable obstacle. The American court system, no producer to charm, no wife to intimidate, no family gathering to con. Only a judge's signature, and the bracing power of a court order. While Kody's rage smoldered hotly, Robyn's was quieter, but equally calculated. Her response, insiders say, was all performance, constant tears, murmured terror, and a constant barrage of texts meant to win sympathy. One source reported Robyn texted an old friend in Utah, stating, "Janelle is making us sell our home. She wants to see my kids homeless. All this because Kody loves me. Why would she do this to us?" Observe the terminology. It's not debt or contracts. It's motherhood, fear, and victimhood. Robyn reframed the entire legal problem as a personal melodrama, making herself and her children innocent victims of Janelle's alleged vengeance. In Robyn's account, she's not a co-signer to a terrible loan. She's a mother in danger. It's an emotionally manipulative, but compelling story. It's designed to influence friends, fans, and even the older Brown kids, characterizing Janelle as cold and cruel, rather than intelligent and within her rights. The coerced sale isn't merely a financial loss for Kody and Robyn. It's a public shaming. They had dictated the family's narrative for so long. Now the truth is inscribing itself in legal script for all to read. Robyn's whole position in the Brown family is being threatened. That house of hers wasn't a home. It was her victory flag. It was her throne, the final prize she'd won. Each square foot of that land, from the 5 bedrooms to the big kitchen to the secluded wooded plot, was a reminder of her victory. It symbolized her status as the legal preferred wife, the one who won Kody's love. To Robyn, that house was more than windows and walls. It was her sanctuary. It shielded her from the turbulence of the big family and provided her and Kody with an exclusive monogamous existence under the guise of polygamy. So to be expelled from it, particularly by Janelle, the wife she has all along regarded as being beneath her, is the greatest mortification. It's not merely a loss of possessions. It's the downfall of an identity. The queen of the Brown household is losing her crown, her castle stolen by someone she never considered a viable threat. That's why her sorrow runs so deeply. It's not that she's losing a home. It's that she's losing her narrative, her authority, her sense of control. But the aftermath doesn't end there. It spreads to the children, and that's where the actual heartbreak always is with this family. Janelle's sons, Gabe and Garrison, already alienated from Kody, find all this poetic justice. In their eyes, this moment is their mom's long overdue victory lap. They saw her making sacrifices for years, being cut out and financially drained, while Kody got to start over with Robyn. They saw the constant COVID rules that Kody used as excuses to keep them at bay. And they saw their mom investing her money in raw land, while Robyn got to live in a mansion. So when Janelle won her case, it wasn't revenge, it was justice. For Gabe and Garrison, that for sale sign isn't unfortunate. It's evidence that truth and fairness finally prevailed. Their mom, the responsible one, the steady one, finally received her justice. Now, on the other side of this controversy, the atmosphere is considerably gloomier. Within Robyn's home, her older children, Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna, grew up in an entirely different world. They've always viewed their mom as the victim, being consistently abused by the rest of the family. So when Robyn explains to them that Aunt Janelle is taking their home, that's all they will accept. To them, it won't be about papers or owing money, it'll be betrayal. That type of storytelling intensifies the gap Kody has created over the years, a rift between his children that never may heal. Imagine those dinner table discussions. Robyn sobbing to little Solomon and Ariella that they're losing their house because of Aunt Janelle. It's a hurtful form of emotional manipulation, making a justified legal action a story of heartlessness. And for the kids, it's heartbreak and confusion that may last a lifetime. Elsewhere in the sister wives world, Christine's been having one of quiet pride. Our sources indicate Janelle did call Christine early on, even prior to filing the suit. The two have formed a genuine friendship since departing Kody, one cemented through shared strife and survival. When the verdict was handed down, Christine did not taunt. She wept tears of relief. Christine advised her, according to an insider, "You did it, Janelle, you made him accountable. You got justice for all of us." To Christine, this wasn't only Janelle's victory, it was a victory for every wife who had been overlooked, dismissed, or economically threatened. It justified every grievance she ever had. She's seeing her friend not just get away from Kody's shadow, but take something concrete and just. They both emerged from the devastation, and now they're standing tall, while the empire Kody constructed is dissipating behind them. And then there's Mary. Loyal, poor Mary, maybe in the worst spot of all. When she learned that Janelle won, it had to have been a gut punch. She's invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the family over the years, from her businesses to her bed and breakfast idea. And unlike Janelle though, Mary doesn't seem to have any written contracts. No promissory notes. No claim to Coyote Pass property. Nothing to safeguard her investment. Her plan, if you can even say that, has been emotional devotion, holding on to hope that if she remained loyal long enough, Kody would love her once more. But this lawsuit confirms what many guessed. Loyalty in Kody's life is not rewarded, it's exploited. Now Mary faces the hard truth. Her money is gone, absorbed into family funds that can't be traced. She's tied to land she doesn't control, with a man who no longer wants her, and a sister wife who views her as competition. Janelle's legal victory shines a bright, painful light on Mary's reality. It's a warning sign in flashing neon letters. If she doesn't act soon, there may be nothing left to save. And while all this huff and puff is going on, TLC and the production team behind Sister Wives are in panic mode. Insiders close to the production report that Kody and Robyn's attorneys have already issued cease and desist notices, threatening the network not to mention the lawsuit or the court's decision in future episodes. They are demanding a complete blackout. Their strategy? To flip the story on screen as something innocent, such as downsizing or a fresh start. But the problem is, fans know better. It's being hashed out on social media, fan sites and YouTube channels. If the show tries to pretend nothing went down, fans will call them out on it. TLC stands to lose credibility with the very public that catapulted Sister Wives to stardom. Producers are said to be scrambling, attempting to find a safe middle. They can employ generalities, such as financial differences or family issues. But everyone will understand what they're actually discussing. Janelle's $600,000 victory. And that's not something clever cutting can conceal. This might just be the point at which Sister Wives finally shatters the facade of reality TV and real life. The disparity between what is seen on camera and the reality that unfolds in court is too great to overlook. And finally, the coup de grace. Public embarrassment. Robyn's sale of his house isn't discreet. The house will go up on big platforms such as Zillow and Redfin, for all to view. The fans will scrutinize every picture, every inch. Next are the open houses. Open houses to be exact. Imagine it, strangers, perhaps even Sister Wives supporters, traipsing through the halls that once represented Robyn's kingdom. For Robyn and Kody, it's more than just a legal setback. It's a personal accounting. Potential buyers and curious fans will eventually walk through every square inch of Robyn's formerly private palace. They'll walk into her master bedroom, glance into that giant walk-in closet, and softly judge her decor decisions. They'll whisper to each other, wondering what really prompted the mansion sale. The walls of her castle have finally been breached, not by critics or competitors, but by ordinary strangers bearing open house passes. To someone as private and dominating as Robyn, this is her worst nightmare brought to life. Her most intimate failure exposed is public, seen by anyone with an internet connection. It's not the loss of her home, although that's a substantial loss. It's the loss of her image, her pride, her fantasy of control. Now, let's consider the cold hard figures of this collapse. Being generous, if Robyn and Kody are able to sell the mansion for $1.5 million in the current market, they will still have some $750,000 owing on their mortgage, leaving them with some $750,000 in equity. From there, realtor fees, typically 5 or 6%, will take another $75,000 to $90,000 off the top. Now they're left with about $660,000. Then there is the largest deduction, the award owed to Janelle Brown. Between legal fees and court award and interest, that amount stands at nearly $600,000. After paying out to Janelle, Kody and Robyn will be left with perhaps $50,000 to $60,000. That's all. Suppose after $1 million house to hardly enough to make a decent condo down payment. It's economic ruin. Pure and simple. But let there be no doubt, Janelle isn't taking anything that wasn't already hers. She's simply taking back the money she poured into it. Money that supported their lifestyle for years. That they're left with next to nothing says everything about how wastefully they lived, and how much their ease relied on Janelle's austerity. This incident totally rewrites the Brown family history. They were the face of plural marriage for years. A happy, working, loving family. But one after another, that illusion has broken down. Christine went away. Janelle followed. Mary followed. And now this lawsuit is the last absolute evidence that the dream was empty. It reveals the core deception in the family pot. That common pool of funds and assets that was meant to signify harmony. In practice, it was nothing of the sort. It was an individual account of the preferred wife and her spouse. Janelle's lawsuit did more than recover her money. It revealed that the family's model of polygamy was not one of partnership or equity. It was one of domination and preference. Kody Brown didn't establish a family dynasty. He ruled over a slow-motion crash, financially, emotionally, and ethically. History won't recall him as the innovator of plural marriage. He'll be remembered as the fellow who lost 3 wives and had his final sanctuary stolen by the one whom he underestimated the most. And that leads us to Janelle, the silent tactician. Her narrative is no longer one of silent perseverance, but of transformation. She became a part of that family as a believer, as a woman who was committed to the ideology that sacrifice for the greater good was honorable. For decades she worked, earned, and gave, hoping for fairness in return. But when the relocation to Flagstaff occurred, and Kody poured funds into Robyn's palace, but left Janelle with nothing but vacant lots, she finally realized the truth. The system was faulty. The family rules were stacked. So she stopped playing by them. She studied. She planned. She protected herself legally with contracts and guarantees. This lawsuit wasn't a spur-of-the-moment outburst. It was years in the making. She saw the iceberg long before it hit, and instead of clinging to a sinking ship, she quietly built herself a lifeboat. When the crash arrived, she didn't simply drift away. She rowed back and took what was rightfully hers from the wreckage. It wasn't revenge, but survival. And in so doing, she didn't simply reclaim her money. She reclaimed her power, her dignity, and her voice. To Janelle, this was justice. And to anyone who's ever been taken for granted, dismissed, or silenced, it's a compelling reminder. You can stand up even after years of being ignored. That sound of that judge's gavel wasn't merely the conclusion of a lawsuit. It was the sound of balance restored. Now let's talk about what happened next. The public explosion. Because once court documents become public record, there's no stopping the spread of truth. All of this didn't hit mainstream media first. It began online, in the fan sites and Reddit threads, where Sister Wives fans exchanged theories and screenshots. One especially astute user, a paralegal with access to court records, looked up Kody Brown and Dabsark LLC on the Arizona docket. What they discovered brought them to a halt. The complaint, the summary judgment, the lien, and the final order to sell the property. They shared screenshots, obscuring personal information, but preserving the crux of the evidence. The post title, "Holy Cow, You Guys." Janelle sued Kody and Robyn, and she won. Forced sale. It went viral in hours. Thousands of upvotes, hundreds of comments, fan blogs, YouTube channels, and Twitter handles scooped it up like wildfire. In that instant, Kody and Robyn lost the one thing they still believed they had under control: the narrative. Their meticulously crafted vision of reality, one screen through TLC's cameras, was broken by court documents. You can spin feelings on a couch in front of a TV, but you can't spin a judge's decision. The facts were clear for all to see, and the fans were solid in their reaction. Team Janelle. No question. The net named her a hero. The hashtag #JusticeForJanelle trended on social media. Memes overwhelmed social media. One of Janelle sitting like royalty on a throne constructed from dollar bills. Kody and Robyn on their knees before her. Another with Robyn's floor plan marked up with arrows, paid for by Janelle's 401k. The court of public opinion also rendered its own judgment, quicker and much nastier than the legal verdict. The viewers did not witness a nasty family spat. They witnessed the last installment of a woman reclaiming what was rightfully hers following years of silent injustice. And the consequences. Devastating for Kody and Robyn. Sources indicate Kody could not help but read the comments online. He read the memes, the ridicule, the admiration for Janelle. For a man whose entire self-image is derived from public perception and patriarchal dominance, this sort of public humiliation hurt. He wasn't just broke. He was broken. Robyn, on the other hand, apparently went into a tailspin of hysteria, desperate to garner sympathy. She even talked about starting a GoFundMe. The plan was to position themselves as victims of Janelle's cruelty, begging the public to help save their home from being stolen. Can you picture it? The irony would have been almost too ridiculous to believe. The concept was so mind-bogglingly tone-deaf that even Kody, yes Kody, anyway, was supposedly shot down. He may not be getting a lot of moments of lucidity anymore, But even he knew that this would have been an epic public relations nightmare. Because let's be real, if they had really gone ahead with that fundraising drive, the internet would have torched them to the ground. They most likely wouldn't have raised anything over $12, and some sympathetic comments from a handful of bewildered fans. So when that scheme fell through, desperation kicked in. And when desperate people are in a bind, pride goes flying out the window. Kody made a string of embarrassing near painful phone calls, calling on family members, distant relatives, anyone who could possibly spare a few dollars. He couched it as an investment in the future of the family, rather than a bailout. But come on, it was a cry for help. And the answer? A resounding no. Years of ignoring relationships, of placing Robyn before all others, had eventually come back to haunt him. He had burned so many bridges that there was no one remaining on the other side of them who was willing to lend support. You can't cash in on loyalty when you've spent 10 years bankrupting it. In a moment best described as delusional, Kody even went to approach Mary. So now he didn't outright ask for money. That would have been too blatant. But he suggested taking out a loan against the property they owned together at Coyote Pass. And Mary, bless her heart, finally held firm. She'd already watched exactly how this film turns out by then. She supposedly told him straight out that her money was hers, and that she wasn't going to get caught up in another one of his money messes. It was silent, peaceful but stern. The door had officially shut. Mary wasn't going to be the next idiot to pay for someone else's error. So with no choice remaining, reality finally dawned. They'd have to sell the mansion. And that's when things within that large cavernous house turned nasty. The tension was toxic. The blame game started. Kody, being Kody, couldn't take responsibility. He allegedly lashed out at Robyn, screaming, "Why did you need such a large house? We should have just continued at the rental. You and your expensive tastes." And Robyn, well, she wasn't going down without a fight. She fired back, "Me? You signed the papers. You said it was just a formality. You're the patriarch. You were supposed to protect us." Ah, poetic irony. The dream house that represented their love now stood as the very thing destroying it. For years, Kody reduced all other relationships in his life to nothing so he could create this utopian bubble with Robyn. And now the same bubble was strangling them both. Meanwhile, Janelle's narrative was going in a very different direction. With the court judgment in hand and her debt formally settled, something within her changed. Our sources indicate she's lighter, happier, freer than she's been in decades. That ruling wasn't merely about finances. It was about closure, security, and finally autonomy. Janelle has been described as reportedly sitting down with a financial advisor, not to indulge, but to plan prudently. She's planning long-term. Some of that money, we're told, is already being set aside for her children. Maybe a down payment for Logan. Maybe a business fund for Hunter. Or maybe just a nest egg. Something solid to make sure her kids never face the instability she endured. That's Janelle's kind of legacy. As Kody built his so-called kingdom with family funds, Janelle's building a future for her children. A republic of her own creation. It's the most romantic contrast possible. The patriarch wasted, the matriarch saved. Even rumor mongers speculate that Janelle is going to construct a house, but not on that accursed hunk of Coyote Pass. She's said to be seeking elsewhere, somewhere near her kids and grandkids. A humble house, cozy, all her own. No common husband, no common well, no common debt, just peace. Imagine it, Janelle, standing on her own property, blueprint in her hand, title in her name only. That's true power, not showy, not boisterous, but worked for. She doesn't need a palace to have worth. Her worth glows through her strength, her understated wit, and her unbreakable sense of self. Ending that mansion, its sale signifies the genuine demise of the Brown Empire. It's the last crumble of the fantasy. The moment the fairy tale turns to dust. That house has never been about walls and rooms. It's been a representation of everything shattered. The favoritism, the debt, the denial. To sell it is not merely a sale. It's an exorcism. When the documents are signed and a new family settles in, free of all that baggage, the ghosts of the sister wives period will at long last be put to rest. The Browns will be forced to begin anew, dispersed and chastened. And as for Kody and Robyn, well, let's just say the luxury lifestyle is in their past. They'll be renters now, swapping their mansion for a humble 3-bedroom. They'll have to confront what they've been running from for decades. The truth of their own construction. The cash is gone. The glamour is waning. And the TLC paychecks aren't what they once were. Kody may even be forced to get an actual job. Now imagine that for a second. Kody Brown, the so-called patriarch working for a boss. It's almost too crazy to envision, right? But here's the question that hangs over them. Will their love endure when the castle's lost? Or wasn't it ever really love? Merely fantasy constructed out of borrowed cash and borrowed time? That, dear audience, is the question that will determine their fate. Because this foreclosure drama, it's about more than money. It's about the whole sister wives experiment in microcosm. Promises exchanged and dishonored. The facade of oneness crumbling to reveal the ugly face of self-interest. A man who exacted loyalty without ever offering any in return. And a woman who finally ceased holding her breath for someone to save her, and saved herself. Instead, Janelle Brown will not become the victim of this narrative. She'll be remembered as the winner, the one who played the game smarter than everybody else. As Kody clung to control, Janelle quietly constructed her exit strategy. And when it was time to leave, she left with both her dignity and her deed in hand. So when that for sale sign went up on Kody and Robyn's front yard, it wasn't a banner of defeat. It was a cry of freedom. Evidence that sometimes the quietest person in the room is playing the winning hand. She made them believe they had the castle. All the time she had the keys. And that, folks, is the true end of the Sister Wives empire. Not with a bang, but with a sold sign. Thanks for tuning into Sister Wives Crew, your home for the stories they'll never tell you on TV. If you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like, subscribe, and stick around. Because in this family, someone always has another secret ready to pop up.